Welcome to my channel, where your adventure into the future starts right now. Step into a vibrant universe filled with groundbreaking technology, breathtaking alien landscapes, and exhilarating sci-fi narratives that challenge your imagination. From daring explorations of distant galaxies to haunting journeys through dystopian societies, we uncover the most captivating stories and innovative ideas that will shape the world of tomorrow. Subscribe today and join us on an incredible intergalactic voyage that promises to inspire and thrill. The Velar had long been known across the galaxy as a species of ruthless conquerors and methodical strategists, creatures whose rise to power was driven by a near-obsessive desire for dominance. Their homeworld, far from Earth, had been the birthplace of an empire that spanned countless star systems. They were proud of their intellect and their ability to engineer and create technologies that could crush entire civilizations beneath their weight. Their ships were invulnerable, their weapons devastating, and their minds unparalleled in their brilliance. For centuries, the Velar had moved across the galaxy like a shadow, silently encroaching on other worlds, absorbing them into their vast empire and extracting resources that made them stronger. They viewed every world they conquered as another step in their long ascent to the top of the cosmic hierarchy. To them, other species were either useful or expendable. They were not concerned with the lives of the beings they encountered, only with what they could extract from them. The human race, as far as the Velar were concerned, had always been an insignificant blip in the grand expanse of the universe. Earth was considered little more than a curiosity, a small, chaotic world filled with a primitive species struggling to make their mark in the cosmos. Their technology was far behind that of the Velar, and their governments were fractured and volatile. The Velar had no fear of humanity. They viewed Earth as a world ripe for easy manipulation and control, with no concept of the ferocity of human emotion, the strength that drove them to fight for their families and loved ones. The Velar had come to Earth with one clear mission: to abduct human children. They had done this countless times before on other worlds, and their methods were perfected over centuries. They would strike under the cover of darkness, using their superior cloaking technology to avoid detection. In the chaos of night, they would descend upon unsuspecting cities, plucking children from their homes, schools, and playgrounds, and transporting them aboard their ships. To the Velar, these children were nothing more than valuable assets, genetic specimens to be studied and tested. They believed that through careful examination, they could unlock secrets of the human mind and biology, perhaps gaining insights into human resilience, intelligence, or even the potential to harness their genetics for their own use. The Velar had no notion of the bond between parent and child, no understanding of what such a relationship meant to humanity. To them, the act of taking children was no different from harvesting crops. It was an extraction of resources to further their empire. They did not consider the emotional consequences of their actions. To the Velar, human emotions were a strange and baffling concept and inefficiency, a weakness that had no place in the cold, calculated universe they inhabited. But the Velar had failed to consider one thing: the resilience of humanity. They had underestimated the lengths to which humans would go to protect their own, especially when it came to their children. The idea that the human race would tolerate such a breach of their most sacred bonds was a mistake that would cost the Velar dearly. The first signs of trouble came almost immediately after the abductions began. The Velar had thought their mission would be swift and smooth. They had infiltrated Earth's atmosphere unnoticed and launched their surprise strike on several cities. Using their advanced technology, they had silently descended on schools and neighborhoods, taking children from their homes without warning. The children, ranging in age from toddlers to adolescents, were quickly rounded up and transported aboard the VLR ships. What the VLR did not anticipate was the immediate reaction from Earth's population. The abductions triggered an almost primal response. Parents, who had been blissfully unaware of the threat until it was too late, found themselves thrust into a situation they were wholly unprepared for. The realization that their children were gone, taken by alien invaders, sent shockwaves through the human population. It was as though a switch had been flipped and a collective fury erupted. It wasn't just about the children being taken. It was about the invasion of their homes, the violation of their sanctuaries. The VLR had underestimated the depth of the attachment humans had to their families, the fierce instinct to protect that had been ingrained in them over millennia. Human parents, regardless of their individual backgrounds or differences, suddenly found themselves united by one common purpose: to get their children back. The VLR had assumed that humanity's relatively primitive state of technology would make them easy targets. But what the VLR had failed to account for was the boundless resourcefulness and creativity of the human spirit. Within hours of the abductions, local militias, law enforcement, and even civilian groups began organizing to fight back. Armed with little more than conventional weapons, firearms, improvised explosives, and makeshift traps, humans began to mount an organized resistance against the VLR forces. The initial clashes were chaotic, but they were also brutal. Human soldiers, parents, and civilians fought with an intensity that the VLR had never encountered. Their enemies were not highly trained soldiers, but ordinary people driven by an overwhelming need to protect their families. The VLR found themselves facing a resistance they had never anticipated. Even though the humans' technology was no match for the superior weaponry of the VLR, their determination and sheer willpower were formidable. Within days, the VLR fleet found itself under attack. Human resistance grew rapidly as more people joined the fight, unwilling to let their children be taken without a fight. The VLR, for the first time in their long history of conquest, found themselves on the defensive. The human strategy was simple, but effective. Fight not just for survival, but for the emotional core that powered their very existence. The VLR had mistakenly believed that humanity would fold under the pressure of such an invasion, that they would be passive victims. Instead, humans were transforming into an army of relentless defenders, each person motivated by a deeply personal reason to resist. Despite the VLR's overwhelming technological superiority, they could not break the human spirit. Every time they abducted a group of children, more humans would rise up, forming militias, coordinating attacks, and striking back with a fury that could not be contained. The VLR's tactics, honed over centuries of conquest, began to falter under the pressure of humanity's unrelenting will. The VLR fleet, which had once seemed invincible, began to suffer losses. Their ships, despite their advanced technology, were being damaged by human tactics that leveraged the environment, knowledge of the terrain, and sheer unpredictability. The VLR were accustomed to battles fought on their terms, with clear and controlled parameters. They had never dealt with an enemy that would fight with everything they had, even when the odds were stacked against them. It wasn't long before the VLR began to realize the true scope of their mistake. They had come to Earth with the belief that their superior technology would allow them to conquer the planet effortlessly. They had believed that taking human children would be a quick and easy operation. But instead, they had provoked a war, one that was fueled not just by human ingenuity, but by an overwhelming primal instinct to protect their own. The VLR High Command convened in an emergency meeting, analyzing the situation with growing concern. Their initial triumphs had quickly turned into a nightmare. Their soldiers were beginning to question the mission. The Council of the VLR, normally composed of the most strategic minds in the galaxy, was thrown into disarray. One of the high-ranking commanders, a veteran of many campaigns, spoke first. "We have miscalculated. The humans, these primitive creatures, are fighting with a passion I've never seen. They will not back down. Their families, their children, mean everything to them. I cannot fathom the level of emotional drive they possess. It's as if their very survival depends on protecting their offspring." Another voice, the head of the VLR fleet, added, "This is unlike anything we've encountered. These creatures, humans, are not just fighting to defend their planet. They are fighting for their children. I've never seen a species so irrational, so driven by instinct. We thought we could take their children without consequence. We thought they would simply obey." The chief strategist, a member of the VLR elite, sat in stunned silence for a moment before speaking. "Are we insane?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "We've taken human children. We've crossed a line that no other species would dare. I didn't think the humans would be able to respond like this. They've turned this into something personal, something more than just a war. We've ignited a fury in them that is unstoppable." The realization that they had underestimated humanity's capacity for resistance hit the VLR hard. They had assumed that humans would bend, that their advanced technology and military tactics would crush any opposition. Instead, they had awakened something within humanity that even they could not control. The human response was not one of desperation, but one of defiance. Every time they took a child, the humans fought back with renewed intensity, driven not by logic or strategy, but by something far more powerful: love, determination, and an unbreakable will to protect their own. In that moment, the VLR realized the true cost of their actions. They had not just abducted human children, they had unleashed a force they could not defeat. The humans had shown them what true power was, and it was something the VLR had never understood. The power of family. The power of love. The power of a species that would do anything, even fight a superior enemy, to protect the most vulnerable among them. And so, the VLR, for the first time in their history, found themselves faced with a question they had never considered: are we insane to have underestimated these humans? And as they looked at the reports of the human resistance, they knew that they had made a grave error, a mistake that would haunt them for the rest of their existence. The VLR had captured human children, but it was they who had been captured by the indomitable spirit of a species that would never surrender.